This is my wife, Ankita. You can't see her because she's...
Yeah, I'm coming, just setting it up. Hello everyone and welcome to today's another episode of the Millionaire Insiders show. Today we are very excited to have our guest Travis Chappell, who is the founder of guestio.com, and he is also himself has hosted more than 800 episodes on his podcast which named Travis Makes Friends, and which was recently rebranded from his previous podcast which was Build Your Network. And we will go into that details and why the rebranding, why at some point of time you felt you didn't want to do podcasting. So we'll go into and what has helped him to achieve all the success which he has achieved so far. Without any further delay, let's welcome Travis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Excited to be.
We should have something that we could play where it's just a bunch of people fucking cheering and excitement. And it's just like fake.
Yeah, applause track. Hit the applause track.
Travis, do you or have you done any drugs? Not right now, but just in the course of your life.
I've smoked weed.
Okay.
Does that count?
I think lots of people would probably say, yeah, that's a drug. You better repent of your sins or you're gonna burn, but there's not gonna be any weed where that's happening. Basically, the end of that joint, if you just expand it where it's just a really big fucking cherry, you're gonna be stuck there burning. Are you religious?
I am not. No. I used to be hardcore, but not as much anymore. What about you guys?
What's that mean, you used to be hardcore? What religion did you used to be hardcore?
I grew up independent fundamental Baptist, so fundamentalist Christianity.
Yeah, me too. Fucking hell yeah. So you used to be really religious, as in, hey, you guys need to repent of your sins and join us with the winning team where you're going to be there. You used to preach to people and try to bring them to Christ or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was going to do, like with my life. I went to Bible college for 4 years
Goddamn.
out of high school and graduated with a double major in Bible and church ministries.
So that's a pretty big fucking shift from, hey, I'm not religious anymore. I went to Bible college for fucking 4 years. I mean, that's a massive shift.
Yeah, I want to dive more into that, who Travis was when he was beyond the clock a little bit, and then go to when he was into high school and college, who Travis was and what he was doing at that point of time.
Yeah, so went to this, just to give you guys an idea of the magnitude I'm talking about. So the church that I went to was the mega church in that movement, in that IFB world. So we had, I don't know, a couple thousand members when I was a kid. And then by the time I left, in my 20s out, they had, I don't know, 6,000 or 7,000 members of the church. And then they had a K through 12 school on the campus. And they also had a 4-year ministerial college on the campus. I went to church there, obviously, every Sunday, but we had Sunday school every Sunday morning plus Sunday morning service. And then we had Sunday night service. And then we had Wednesday night service. So it was essentially 4 services a week plus chapel and everything else that was going on. Plus we had leadership conferences and missions conferences and revival conferences and all these things where we would have church Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. We had soul winning Saturdays. And this is all just talking about the church part. But I also went to the school on the same campus.
That's what I was going to say. And you went to K to 12 there and 4 years of college?
Kindergarten through 12th grade and all 4 years of college, all on this one 40-acre campus. So 80% of my waking hours from the time that I was 3 until the time that I was 21 were spent essentially on that campus. I mean, in some context or capacity, my sports were there, my friends were there, my youth group was there, everything that I knew was there. So when I was coming up in school, they didn't really give you any options except for, do you want to be in ministry full-time or do you not want to be in ministry full-time? And if the answer was you don't want to be in ministry full-time, they didn't really give you any direction or guidance beyond that. So we didn't have a guidance counselor or someone like that that was like, oh, you want to be an engineer? Well, you're going to have to get these types of grades. You're going to have to talk to these types of people. Here's a list of schools that you may want to consider applying to. There was zero of that. It was basically, do you want to be in ministry? If not, okay, you go over to this pile. If you do want to be in ministry, there's no option of like, hey, do you want to attend this seminary or these colleges are really great? Plus, we also have this one here. It was just here's an application to our college because why would you go anywhere else if you're going to be in ministry? This is the college to be at. So there weren't really many options given to us. Basically, the people in my high school class either went to the college on the campus or they went to the local junior college or they went to the military or they just went into some sort of a trade. there was almost no mention of here's how to have a successful career beyond ministry. So I went the Bible college route. But by the time that I graduated, I was doing sales during college just to make extra money.
Wow.
And what I started realizing is that when I was interning on the weekends at this church, that was 2 hours away from the campus, I would drive all the way down there. We'd clean up the whole church. We'd do everything for them on the weekends. We'd drive all the way back for school on Monday. And I would find myself on the weekends interning, doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life, looking forward to getting back to school on Monday so that I could do the thing that I was supposed to be quitting in 4 months after I graduated. And that's when things kind of started getting shaky for me. I enjoy this stuff so much more. And I feel like I'm pretty naturally good at it. I have a propensity toward it at least. And I want to continue doing that. And that's going to throw a major wrench in the works because it was major taboo there to go to school there and then not go into ministry. It was seen as you're seen as a failure. And a lot of people just kind of not really officially excommunicate with you, but they just let you fall off and do your own thing. And so
that's crazy coming from a crowd that's kind of judge not, lest ye be judged.
Oh yeah. I mean, the whole thing is totally weird, dude. I was having this conversation with a Mormon friend of mine, somebody who used to be in the Mormon church. And we were talking about how it's interesting how if you're an outsider coming into the world, they will welcome you with open arms because they want to convert you essentially long term.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were in the world and then you leave that world, they don't want to associate with you because you're seen as the person who's like leading people down the wrong path. So it's an interesting thing because even though me and him may have the same whatever life standards or morals or whatever, if he went to my church growing up and I went to his church growing up, they would both accept us with open arms, but not the other way around because we used to go to that church and then they won't bring you back. It's just like this weird, I don't know, dude. It's a weird thing. So I don't have any ill feelings toward a lot of that. I know the majority of the people there were just doing the best that they could with the information that they had and that they truly believed what they believed. And if they truly believed what they believed, they were doing the correct thing according to what they believed. I just got away from believing that. So yeah, it was basically starting my entire life over when I was 23, 24, just really trying to figure out what I was going to do and how it was going to work out and what path I should go down. It was just like a brand new world that was opened up to me.
So now like you don't have any religious beliefs? You don't believe there's a God or?
Not in the truest sense of the word. This is probably a 5-hour conversation to have, but not in the monotheistic religious context. No.
So in a really brief, non-5-hour way, how do you think we got here? Do you think we was created or we think we just randomly evolved?
That's a loaded question, bro. I mean, it's difficult to just say not in a 5-hour conversation because there's a lot of information required to make an assumption like that. The bottom line is I don't know. And
I was gonna say there's another real quick option. I have no clue.
Yeah, we're all just making theories. Even science is full of theories. They're intrinsically non-provable because nobody was there. I tend to side with science more often than not because, in my opinion, if we're going to make massive assumptions about things that we don't currently understand, would it not make more sense to make those assumptions based on things that we do understand rather than making something up completely because it fit into cultural or religious context of 3,000 years ago? I think that makes more sense. But again, I have no idea.
Okay. So you said around 23 years you were trying to figure it out. So how did that go from that time to today? What did you figure out? What are the steps that you took and to reach wherever you are right now?
Yes. So when I first started down that path, I was still doing door-to-door sales at the time. So door-to-door was what I did in college and then after college to make money, pay my bills. And it was going pretty well at the time. I have no ill will towards door-to-door. I just knew it wasn't for me. It wasn't going to work for me long-term. So I, started when I was 19 or whatever. And when I was 23, 24, I was making good money and it was 100% commission. So nobody told me when I had to work. Nobody told me that I didn't have to work. It was just that if you don't work, you don't get a paycheck. So you can make your own hours and decide your own paycheck. And I was making 6 figures at 22 with essentially no degree. I had a degree, but it was an unaccredited Bible degree, which is basically the same as having no degree. And things were going pretty well. It was just that when I looked at myself when I was 33, I don't want to be knocking doors anymore. But if I don't change something now, I'm going to end up doing what I'm doing just out of pure coincidence and because that's the direction that I'm headed. So I didn't have any idea what to do. I knew I didn't want to use my degree, and I knew I wasn't going to do the thing that I was good at. So that was really when I was just back at the starting line. It was, well, what do I do? And I looked at everything at this point, guys. I remember looking up FBI applications. I remember looking up what it would look to get into the fire department. I was literally doing the work of a 14-year-old, 15-year-old when I was 23, except for that I had a mortgage and I had bills and I had a wife because we'd got married when just out of college. Actually, before we graduated college, when I was 21, we'd gotten married. And so it was, okay, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, but I have to figure it out pretty quick, or I have to figure out something in the meantime because I can't just not do anything because there's stuff to do and there's bills to pay. And my wife was working at the time, which was extremely helpful as I was going through this, I guess, quarter life crisis. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And first time in my life that I ever dove into self-education, it was just because I didn't really know what else to do or where else to go. I didn't know anybody in my life. That as soon as I decided that it needed to be I wanted to do something in business. I wanted to do something with sales. I wanted to do something with making money or earning more freedom. Ultimately, it came down to freedom for me. And I realized that money is a path to freedom, and I wanted to head down that path, but I had no idea what to do. And I didn't know anybody that was making millions of dollars, let alone even $1 million at the time. And everybody in my network was from the church, either didn't want to talk to me or actively hoped I failed, or they were just completely indifferent and didn't really care. And then I had a couple good friends that were like, hey, I wish the best for you, but they didn't know how to help me because they didn't know any millionaires and they didn't know how to make money either. So it was lonely. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I believe anymore. I don't know where I'm headed. And the only thing I knew how to do at that time was just, I got to just immerse myself into education. And I started reading books, listening to audiobooks, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts for the first time ever. When I first started listening to podcasts, I just fell in love with the format. I loved the conversational nature of it, that I could learn, but it didn't really feel as much learning as it did when I sat down to read a book. It just felt I was listening to a couple people talk and they said interesting things, and it was learning from those people that was starting to actively help me figure out, hey, what's the next step for me? And the next step for me eventually ended up becoming podcasting itself. I liked the idea, I liked the medium, I liked the platform, and this seems it would be a fun thing to do and a really cool way to make money. Let's try to give this a shot. So I started my show, and after things started going well, a while after I started, probably a year and a half, 2 years after I started, 3 episodes a week, I finally had a couple people that started reaching out being, hey, what are you doing differently? How can we do our podcast better? And that was the first time where I realized it was, I can actually make money doing this. And I started helping and teaching other people how to podcast. We started doing masterminds and events and all that stuff. And then COVID basically shut down my events and mastermind business, because my whole thing during that was everything was in person. It was very experiential based. We were doing international retreats and stuff like that. It was not going to be replaced in any sort of virtual context. So I just shut that down. And then that's when I started working on my software company, Guestio. We raised over $1 million for that in 2021. We started doing that full time. Then the marketing agency came about after Guestio started, because I had a lot of higher level people in my network that were, hey, I like the idea of Guestio, meaning I like that I can go book guests for my show, or I like that I can go get booked on shows as a guest to promote my offers or whatever, but I don't have the time to use it. I do have money. Can you do it for me? So we started a marketing agency where we represent people, we get them booked on podcasts, which led more into podcast production and things like that. So now we have a full stack podcast marketing agency, essentially, where we get people booked on shows. We help people launch shows, improve their shows. And then we have Guesty, which is the software that's the DIY version of what our agency does for people. And then I still have my podcast, which we rebranded from Build Your Network to Travis Makes Friends. So I know there's a lot in there, but that's essentially the story.
That's awesome.
So you have a subscription-based model on guestio.com?
Yes, we have subscription and marketplace model both. So the subscription, you can pitch people and get them on for free. The marketplace model is you just pay them their fee and get them on for whatever their fee is.
What has been your strategy to the lead generation and have people on your side and on your podcast? I have seen that you have booked some quality people on your show and on the site as well. So what has been your strategy to get to those people?
I mean, really, the simple answer is my podcast. It was kind of my perfect foot in the door to be able to have conversations with a lot of people that normally would not have conversations with me. And so I used the podcast as a big tool in that. And then it was just years of connecting with people and building relationships and doing that, learning how to do that effectively over a period of time. And then the more you do it, the more it works, because you have stronger connections, stronger ties with really high quality people. And then the connections that you get from the quality people are also quality people. And then those connections compound and get better and better. And then I never lost touch with my door-to-door roots, meaning that I was never afraid to reach out cold to people and get rejected. And in the beginning, that was a lot of my strategy, because I didn't have a name, I didn't have a reputation, I didn't have a show, I didn't have anything to show people. I wasn't in the 2 Comma Club or anything at that time. That there was nothing that was about me that was anything different or special or unique. And so at the beginning, it was just volume and rejection. And then, but you get a yes every once in a while. And so every time you get a yes, you leverage that into another yes, and then you get another yes. And then the yeses become much, much, much easier over time. It's just the beginning. It's really painful because you're working really hard and you're not seeing really any of the results for quite a while. But it's that picture we've all seen of the iceberg where they have like this much sticking up out of the water, but underneath the water is like this freaking mountain of matter. And that's really what the beginning years are. It's building up that foundation. It doesn't seem like there's anything to show for it, and it doesn't seem like anything's happening for you, but you need those years of foundation building in order to get the steel up. To steal another metaphor, to bounce metaphors here, you got to build that foundation before you can put up the steel beams that are going to support the structure that's going to be this massive thing that you're building over time. It's just that most people won't stick through the foundation building phase because that's the most painful part.
That's really true and really typical of people. Basically, if you're an idiot and you're thinking, hey, what's this guy talking about? He's basically saying you have to put in the work or win the lottery. So you could just fucking win the lottery if you want. That's a long shot. It is possible. You could go actually buy a lottery ticket every single day for the rest of your life and never win, or you could go buy one right now and tomorrow win. Or you can put in the work. And I think you hit on another big topic that is really, really common with most people. And it's really, they have a fucked up mindset. People don't want to put in the work. And usually the reason that they don't want to put in the work is because of that rejection, because that always actually boils down to mindset. It's really people, they reject themselves and they actually haven't fell in love with themselves and actually haven't accepted themselves. It's hard to get that rejection because they need the approval, because that's the only way they get the approval of themselves is externally, because they haven't figured out how to actually get it on the inside yet. So they're scared of the no. But one way you can easily shift your mindset on that no is you just take your strongest desire that you have, like the thing that you want the most, and then just tell yourself that the only thing that stands between you and that is X amount of no's. And however much you hate hearing no, create that X amount larger and larger. You're only 1 no away, or you're 10 no's away. Or if you really hate getting no's, then you're 1,000,000 no's away. Because then now all you have to do is go get 1,000,000 fucking no's and you have your ultimate desire.
Yeah, what I always did when we were doing door to door to help reps think through rejection a little bit better was once you get a sale, factor in how many no's it took you to get that sale, and then divide it by the total number of people that you talk to. And that's the dollar amount that you make every time you talk to somebody.
Exactly.
And it makes it a little bit easier. You know what I mean? And instead of being, I made $1,000 from one person, it's no, you made $50 from 20 people. It's just the 20th person said yes. And that $1,000 made you the $50 for those 20 people. So, well, if I just talk to 200 more people, I'll make $50 per person. Then that equals $10,000. And then the nice thing is that when the more that you do it and the more you fill volume into your pipeline, the better you're going to get. And it doesn't take you 20 people to get a yes. It takes you 15 people to get a yes. And then it's $70 per person that you talk to. And then it doesn't take you 15 people to get a yes. It takes you 8 people to get a yes. And now it's $100 per person that you talk to. And then it gets easier over time. You just have to be willing at the beginning to just suck it up and take the pain for a while. And one of my favorite Gary Vee quotes is People overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that's really the name of the game to me, man, is anybody coming into entrepreneurship, whatever, marketing, lead gen, podcasting, anything that will provide some sort of an outsized return at some point in the future. If you're not willing to at least give it a decade, then don't get into the game at all, because the odds of it happening before that are much, much, much lower. Can they? Yes, of course. I'm not saying that they can't. But if you're starting from scratch, meaning that you have zero skills, you have zero knowledge, you have zero connections, you have $0 in the bank, you're starting from scratch, give it a decade, because it's going to take a lot longer than you think it's going to take. You might have a leg up. There's some people who've come into the space and built $30 million in annual revenue company, but they came into the space with knowledge or some sort of a skill set, right? They were whatever, a high ticket closer for somebody else, and they were selling $40,000-$50,000. They were making $40,000-$50,000 a month and 100% commissions. And when they started their business, they had $500,000 in the bank from savings, and they knew exactly how to build out a CRM and close high ticket deals. Of course, they're going to have a faster path to success when they start their business, but that's not when they got started. My opinion is you're getting started when you have zero of everything. You know what I mean? So give yourself a decade from there and learn how to start stacking and building skill sets, and then learn how to continue cultivating and growing relationships and connections with really high quality people over time. And you compound those two things and multiply them together, your increased skills, your knowledge, your competence, that skill stack, you multiply that times the types and the types of the high quality people that over the course of a decade has no way of not making you more money or making you more successful or giving you another opportunity to succeed. But like I said, it's just that when people get into the space, they see one story about this person who made $1 million in 7 months and they go, that's me. And then 7 months later, they're in debt with $23,000 and they didn't make any money. And they're like, well, this is a scam and these people suck and everything about this is horrible. And I can't believe I gave up my life savings for this. And now I'm going to go back to working at CVS or whatever. And they write the whole thing off. And it's, well, like you failed you because you didn't give it long enough, but the person who sold you or the marketing that sold you like also failed you because they made you think that it was going to be easy. And it's just not. And it doesn't make any sense that it would be, or else everybody and their mom would be doing this. It doesn't make any sense. Of course it's difficult. That's why there's only so many people that are going to go do it. So if you want the result that bad, that's why clarity is so important. Because if you want the result that bad, then it's worth putting in the time to get there, right? Because of that outsized return. If you could put in work for the next 15 years and make less money than you would have made being a salaried employee somewhere using your college degree. But if you do this particular, like entrepreneurship, and I say this industry, I'm saying entrepreneurship, podcasting, and like a venture that's on your own, and it's some sort of entrepreneurship, like year 15 could be the year where you quintuple all of your total revenue and all of the years that you've done this combined. Like there's always a potential for this hockey stick level growth in these types of fields, because there is the potential for outsized returns if you're willing to stick in the pain long enough. It's just that a lot of people give up 3 feet from gold.
Yeah, and also if you want big outcome, then you also need to take big steps or bigger risks, right? And that's why people miss out a lot. They think, oh, it's gonna be easy, I'm gonna be rich, I'm gonna make so much money, and then they jump into it, and then they're, oh shit, oh, I have to actually do all this work, it's painful, and they're not willing to seek that discomfort or the pain that they have to go through anyways to get there wherever they want to be.
So basically you said one of the things that you said for your guys was, again, just mindset shift, right? Start thinking, instead of thinking that, hey, somebody told me no, start thinking every time somebody tells me I get $50, right? Hey, I'm getting paid $50 to get told no. And then if I get enough no's, it's going to be $100. Yes, yeah. It's going to be, I really liked it. It seems like your offer that you have is very continuous, as far as you have a lead in with the podcast, which is where you can have somebody on your podcast. It's essentially, from what you described, your podcast itself is a product that you're using to deliver value to your ideal avatar, which is then going to be somebody that's wanting to be on more podcasts or wanting to have people on their podcast, which also leads in to probably your ideal, more premium client that's, hey, I want to be on podcasts, or I want more people on my podcast, but I want to keep doing the shit that I love to do. So you just book me up and tell me when I actually have to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for us, we preach podcasting and guesting on podcasts, and we essentially content interview based content that increases credibility, increases authority, grows connections and trust with people. And we're so heavy on teaching that stuff that it was just, well, if we're going to be heavy on teaching this, then I should be the premier example of somebody who does everything that we tell people that they should do.
You have something like that where, let's say, I don't really want people to be on my podcast because I don't have a podcast, because I don't understand how to have a podcast or what to do. Do you have information, a product that's an informational product on why you should have a podcast, how to set it up, how to run it, that then leads into your software?
Yeah. We have a whole training. It's 100 videos on every aspect of podcasting called Podcast Profit Academy. But frankly, dude, we haven't sold that in 2 years since we started the software, but we're getting ready to bring it out of the vault again and give it to people, not for free, but for a much, much smaller price. It's a premium style course, but I think we're going to start selling that for really cheap actually for people.
Yeah, well, it seems even people watching right now, it seems there could be a lot of people that don't have a podcast because maybe they don't know what to do.
Especially the interview show is making money from leveraging the interview show to make money.
Yeah, that's all part of that training for sure.
So people can still get it right now. I could go buy it right now if I wanted to.
Yep, you can. Yeah, you just go to my website and then go to the resources page.
Okay.
TravisChappell.com/resources.
Then basically we would learn everything about how to start a podcast, why to start a podcast, how to structure it. Then we could go in and actually start using your software to get people on our podcast, to get guests on our podcast, but then also ourselves be guests on other people's podcasts.
Yep, exactly.
So Travis, why the recent rebranding or renaming of your podcast from Build Your Network to Travis Makes Friends?
It just started being more of an energy drain on me doing the podcast because I just wasn't excited about the interviews anymore. We weren't doing any outbound. I got really busy basically building the business in the meantime, that when I saw 4 interviews on my calendar on a Wednesday, it was just, oh my gosh, I have so many other things to do. I do not want to do these interviews. I didn't know any of the guests because they were just people that were pitched to us. Not to say that they were bad guests. We wouldn't have accepted anybody that we didn't have interest in interviewing, but they weren't the people that I was really stoked. I didn't know who they were. So it just started becoming more of an energy drain on me. And I think my entire listener base could tell that I wasn't as much into them anymore. My producer was taking a lot of the interviews because we were just wanting to pump out content. We didn't want to skip days. And it just started becoming like, man, this is becoming more of a drag on me than it is something that fires me up. And the only reason I started the show is because I enjoyed it and it fired me up. And so it just kind of got to this point where I was basically going to shut it down or double down. So we decided to double down. And that's when we rebranded and relaunched the show. I started the show. I went back and forth on just starting a new show and just kind of got to the point where going because I've been doing that from the beginning. Shut it down. But again, I just knew that I wasn't 100% in it. And so instead of just keeping it going, I decided, and why don't we just go ahead and rename the show, make the audience a little bit more broad, make the topic a little bit more broad. That way I can speak to the types of guests that I really want to be speaking to about the topics that I want to speak to them about. And if it hurts my bottom line a little bit, it hurts my bottom line a little bit. I actually just wrote a post about this today because I've been really enjoying doing the podcast again lately. I've been enjoying doing the guest outreach. We've been traveling out to our interviews. We're doing most of them, 90% of them in person. It's been a lot of fun to do the show again. And I wrote this whole post about, it's better to niche down almost all the time. I would not recommend this for your business, but on a podcast specifically, the game is the long-term game. Who can stay in the game the longest and create the highest quality, continually increasing in quality and consistency content. If you can do that long-term in content, you will win eventually. When? I don't know. How big? I don't know, but you will win. So a lot of people will just start a niche show because they think that's what they're supposed to do. And then they don't enjoy it. It's something that's just in their calendar. They do it for 7 months. And when it doesn't get 3 million downloads, they shut it down. That's why there are over 4 million podcasts that have been created. Less than 200,000 of them are active today. So a very small percentage of shows actually continue going after they get started. And I think that has to do a lot with it. And like I said, I'm a big fan of niching down. We teach niching down on all of our content because if you do want outsized success, niching down is your best chance. However, again, if you already have a successful business and you don't need the podcast to be really successful off the bat, think about it as a 10-year play. Think about it as a 5-year play at least. It's going to take 3 years to gain any traction. And so if you're creating around this topic that you're already burnt out on, or you really care that much about, the interviews are boring, they're repetitive, and you're just not getting much from it anymore, you're way more likely to quit before you ever reach any sort of traction than you are if you just create something that you enjoy, even if it's not completely in line with what you're creating in your business. So when I rebranded the show, just everything changed about it. Our downloads immediately increased, and my joy and excitement for it immediately increased, which is even more important than the downloads or the money at this point. And it just kind of was it was regaining clarity over the idea that I still want this to be a main part of what I do. And if I woke up in 5 years from now and this podcast was just generating 7 figures by itself on just sponsorship revenue, that's a massive win for me. And I will be really, really happy if that happens. So it's just a doubling down on high quality, consistent content and planning for 5 years from now, and not in 6 months from now.
I like it more myself. The sound of it, Travis makes friends versus grow your network, build your network. It's an external thing where you're trying to teach other people, hey, you need to, you're trying to serve other people. Hey, it's important for you to actually build your network. But like Travis makes friends, it seems like, well, you're telling people the same thing. You're still telling people essentially you need to, but now it's more personal. Hey, here I'm making a friend. So
kind of like documenting whatever he's doing, making friends, and then also telling people, hey, you should make friends, you should build your network.
And it's just a little bit more broad too, man. It's networking, such a dirty, slimy word for a lot of people. They don't like it. They don't resonate with it. So I think at the time it was good. At the time, I was literally going for that exact person, the person that's interested in networking and wants to learn how to do it the right way. That was my initial avatar. So it was great at the time. But then recently when I was rebranding it, there's going to be a lot of guests that are turned off to doing the show because they don't have any idea or anything to say about the topic of networking, because they don't realize networking is really just making friends. It's just that networking's earned such a, like I said, bad reputation over the years for being something that's gross and annoying. So a lot of people just distance themselves from it, and it made it more difficult for me to do guest outreach and stuff like that. So yeah, I was ready just to go to a little bit broader audience and talk to people that I was really, like I said, more interested in talking to again.
Let's say if there was a blueprint for success, who is trying to make money from interview shows or from podcasting, and there is a checklist of do this to make money, to be successful online. So what would be some of those checklists and the blueprint for success?
Yeah, the blueprint on podcasting is basically you have to do it for a long period of time consistently. That's literally the blueprint. If you're starting from scratch, the best way to make money faster is to start a business on the back end of the podcast. Whether that's coaching, an agency, I would recommend something like that, something that's duplicatable. There's processes already. People teach how to build a successful coaching business or build a successful agency business. And then what I would do is I would interview the people that are the ideal clients for that business on my show, and have conversations with them around the problem that they have in their business on my show, and then let them know at the end or beginning or both of the interview that this is something that we do. We launch podcasts for people. So if I'm talking to somebody and they need a podcast and they're interested in podcasting, and I say we launch podcasts and we just talked for an hour on my podcast, they're going to be like, hey, I've been thinking about starting my own podcast. You said you do launches. Let's talk next week. So it's going to lead to business. And so my thing is like, learn how to build that 6-figure thing right off the bat, and then take profits from that and then dump it back into marketing or advertising the show itself to increase downloads on the show, and then just keep repeating that cycle. So the goal is increase your monthly revenue, invest all profit back into growth. Don't take any money from it if you can afford to not take any money from it. And then do that for as long as you can. That's really the blueprint. Because if you invest whatever, $500 a month in advertising, then you just keep increasing that. And then you look back in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that's when your show is like, oh, we were getting 250,000 downloads a month now instead of 2,000 downloads a month. But it's just because every month we were consistently taking profit and dumping it back into advertising the content of the show. And the show got more consistent over time. It got higher quality over time. We got more traction over time. We got more listeners over time. And then in 5 years from now, obviously the idea is, oh, I have this business that's running that I've built off the back of this podcast, and maybe it's doing 7 figures at that point. Great. But also the podcast is bringing in $30,000 a month in sponsorship revenue. And if I wanted to, I could just do this full time and not care about anything else. That's the blueprint for building a successful podcast from scratch, is that if you want to make money quick, you got to build a business. If you don't care about making money quick, or if you have absolutely no desire to start a business, just know that it's going to take 3 to 5 years before you can start monetizing or making any sponsorship revenue. Probably maybe even longer than that.
So it's not taking the profit and then buy houses and big cars and then go into debt. It's taking the profit and then reinvesting it into the business, into marketing, to bring more clients, to bring more revenue, right?
Invest in things that pay you money until you have enough money to buy the other stuff without having it affect you. That's why I still drive a Camry and 2007 Tundra with like 250,000 miles on it. They're both paid off. They've had them for a while. I haven't spent any money on vehicles or cars or anything like that, even though I want to. It just, to me, at this point in my career, just doesn't make any sense. Just like I can put that money into my podcast, or I can put that money into Facebook ads, or I can put that money into hiring somebody and removing myself from tasks that I don't enjoy. Like I would way rather use the money for that stuff than for getting a little bit more comfortable of a ride from here to the gym. And I'm saying, like, if you can convince yourself to delay gratification in any area of life, then you can be successful in any area of life. It's 100% correlated. You got to learn how to delay gratification.
This is actually very epic that you would say this blueprint that you've given for a podcast. This blueprint is like, it's really powerful. It's probably, and I'm not just saying this to butter you up, because then I'm going to offer you I'm going to tell you what we do and how it could benefit you at the end of the interview. But it's probably the best one that we've heard, because it's so generic in such a good way, because it's the same blueprint to building a business. It's the same blueprint to building a relationship. It's the same blueprint to just going through life ultimately. Especially that part that I think most people find very, very difficult, which all boils down again to their little mindset. It's this delaying gratification. It's just reinvesting into the thing that you want to grow, whether it's money or whether it's your time, because it seems like most people, they want this instant gratification actually, and this is the whole reason that they're actually doing anything anyway. So it's, hey, if they figure out how to get some extra time, instead of investing that extra time into something that will then ultimately allow them to have even more extra time, which means that they don't get any extra time because they got to use the extra time,
right.
Or the money where it's like, okay, hey, I got some extra money, so let me reinvest that into something that could make me even additional extra money, versus saying, oh, I have this so I can go spend it. Most people are they're uninterested and unwilling to do this part. And this is like where their biggest failure comes. And it's, you talked before about this hockey stick growth, and it's literally the only way you can actually get this hockey stick growth is if you continue to delay gratification, because the fucking exponential curve is literally, it looks like that. It looks like a delayed gratification where you're not getting much growth, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, there's a whole bunch of growth.
Right, but it's exactly what you said. It's not going to happen on accident. It's only going to come to those who are continually increasing knowledge, increasing skill, increasing connections, and continually making themselves better, which is only going to come by reinvesting money back into yourself, or reinvesting money back into your business, or whatever is generating the income or revenue for you. And I think it just comes to a couple like mindset things at the very like foundational mindset problems, which is they don't believe that time is more valuable than money, or they have some sort of scarcity around money, right? That's why people don't invest into themselves or don't invest back into their business, because they have a scarcity mindset around how easy it's going to be to duplicate the amount of money that they were going to invest into that thing. It's like, that's why you don't bulk. If you're running a 7-figure business, you don't bulk at something when it's like, oh, $500. Yeah, sure. Here's $500. Doesn't matter, because you have complete confidence that today, you're going to make more than $500. You know what I mean? So like, it's easy to duplicate that money, but then it's like, oh, I'm looking at this $50,000 investment or $100,000 investment. It's like, ooh, okay. Let's really look at this, because I'm not super confident in my ability to go get another $100,000 in pure profit sitting in my bank account. So that's why, again, you have to be willing to consistently reinvest into yourself, because the more confident you are in being able to replace that revenue or that income or that stack of cash, the more confident you are in that, the more easily you will be the more easily you will let go of that money or that income or that revenue. And the more easily you will invest that money back into yourself. And the only way to grow money is to invest money, because money in and of itself is completely useless. The only use that comes from money is in exchanging it for something else.
Well, because you're also thinking at a very different level than what most people are. And this is one of the reasons I've said several times, like, this mindset part is actually very core and very vital to success or in your ability to deal with success. Because a lot of people, they don't really think about the cost of things. They don't actually think, hey, if I spend this, to do this whole delayed gratification thing, you have to have foresight and be looking into the future in the first place, more than a day or more than a week or more than a month, right? You have to be looking out into your future to be able to delay the gratification in the first place, because you have to be thinking, okay, hey, I'll get that gratification over there, right? And because most people don't think like that, then when they're looking at costs, they don't begin to actually even think, hey, in your example, if I spend the $700 or this extra $200 to get all these extras, well, what does that really cost me? Well, what would that cost you if instead you didn't actually did that and you invested it in something? What would that have actually turned into 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Every soda that you've ever drunk, if you took every soda that you've ever drunk and from the beginning of your life and you just said, no, I'm going to take that money back and put it in just a piggy bank. Think of how much money that you would actually have right now. You could buy a soda machine that you just sold sodas to other people and make money every time somebody bought one of your sodas. But you didn't think about that way back then.
You're right. Yeah. And to be clear too, I'm typically not the guy that's like, hey, don't buy coffee from Starbucks. And I'm not Dave Ramsey in that sense where you can never enjoy life, because you do need to be able to do that. It's just a matter of prioritizing what's really important to you. For a lot of people, like driving a nice car is important for me. I want to have that at some point, but I'm not like a diehard gearhead where I'm like researching engine sizes in my spare time. You know what I'm saying? So it's not my passion. But do I enjoy traveling? Yeah, I do. So I spend whatever $10,000+ a year or something like that on traveling. Usually it's business related in some sense. There's something that I'm tying back to my business when I travel, and I just tack on a couple extra personal days at the end. So I'm not somebody that's like, never have any fun. Don't allow yourself any sort of reward for any of the hard work that you're putting in. And I do buy Starbucks. It's just like the mentality is the important part. It's just that if you're thinking in terms of, oh, I can save $43 this month on Starbucks, you're thinking incorrectly. In my opinion, building wealth starts with control the bleeding, because I think it's 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, which is a mind-blowing number to me. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. So number one is stop the bleeding. Get rid of your high interest credit card debt, and stop frivolous spending on high dollar items that you absolutely do not need. Stop. That's number one. Number two is investing in yourself and increasing your income, because you will never be able to not purchase Starbucks enough to be able to have financial freedom. I'm saying the act or discipline potentially could bleed into other areas of your life and help you earn more money, which then could lead to financial freedom, not negating somebody's ability to delay gratification and not get Starbucks. But if your only strategy, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if your only strategy is, I'll go to the laundromat instead of buying a washer dryer, and I'll drink my own coffee I make at home instead of going to Starbucks, that is not a winning strategy either. You have to at some point come to terms with the fact that you just don't make enough money yet. And you have to increase the amount of cash flow. You have to increase the drip that's coming in somehow. And at first, that might mean cutting back on Starbucks so that you can afford to spend $300 to go to the event where your favorite motivational speaker is speaking, and you grab this nugget. If that's the only way that you can afford it, then yes, stop drinking Starbucks and do that instead. But not with the intention of, I'm going to save $40 a month for the next 43 years. And by then I'll have $100,000 to my name. Yeah, but you're still broke. I mean, you're still not going to be able to retire. So you still got to do something in the meantime to say, I need to increase my income. I need to get a side hustle. I need to start a business. I need to do something that allows me to increase my cash flow, even if I still want my primary income to be my job, my career. Because a lot of people, I'm like, look, not everybody has to be an entrepreneur. If you're a doctor and you enjoy doing that and it fulfills you, makes you happy, and you earn good money doing that, great, do that. But do something else. Do something in addition to that to get you to that freedom threshold sooner.
This is actually so valuable, what you've shared.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people really realize this. And it's really valuable because it's 100% true. Whatever you do for income right now is definitely not enough income for the rest of your life. And if what you focus on right now is saving some dollars here and saving some dollars there, not that you shouldn't save those dollars, but if your focus is on, hey, saving those dollars and maybe putting a little bit from your paycheck away into some 401k or into some retirement, or I'm buying assets, I'm investing, which is the right thing to do, you're never going to actually, that investment is never going to be enough for you to not even take care of yourself, let alone actually take care of yourself, but increase your standard of living and your quality of life in the actual future. So the only thing that you can do is you need to invest a lot more than you potentially can right now. And the only way you can actually do that is to focus on figuring out how the fuck do I make more money.
All right, so to wrap it up, we just let us know what's next on your journey. What are you excited about? What's coming?
Yeah, right now I'm really getting excited for this new show that we're doing called Dinner Party. Filmed our first episode a few weeks back, and we're trying to set up our second one now coming up. But it's like an
Travis host Dinner Party?
Yes. Yep. Oh, wow. Yep. That one. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. So shortened down, we call it Dinner Party. But yeah, it's Travis hosts a dinner party, and it's basically my opportunity to bring in like 5 guests at once, and I interview all 5 of them at one time, and we have like a cocktail hour, a dinner set up, and then we do like some desserts and games afterwards and stuff. So we film for like 4 hours. We'll get probably a 45-minute episode out of that, and then cut up a ton of content from it. But it was a blast, and I really enjoyed doing it. So hopefully we can continue doing that, and hopefully get some good results.
And you're hosting everything. You're making the pills, or you're making the dinner, or there's other people who is doing it, and you are just doing the interview.
Oh yeah, they would not want me making cocktails and dinner. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I hired a chef and a cocktail waitress and bartender and all that kind of stuff. So awesome. It was all state of the art, and it was not me. TravisChappell.com. The hub, CHAPPELL, TravisChappell.com. I think all my socials there. You can DM me on somewhere
in this area. There's a link.
There's a link. Yeah.
Awesome, Travis. Thank you so much for coming and spending your valuable time with us. And we enjoyed. I especially enjoyed, and I had so many key takeaways that I will be talking in my next stories that I will make.
She's gonna go tell everybody what you said.
Yeah, it was mind blowing in some areas. This is gold. I enjoyed so much. We both enjoyed, and I really hope that we'll be in touch. And I wish you all the success for your Travis host dinner party that you're working on. So yeah, I wish you all the success.
Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Sure, we'll connect again soon.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.